To me, our speaker this evening at our Israel at 75 Yom Haatzmaut celebration epitomizes the spirit of Israel and of the Israeli. Yifta Leket has been our Shaliach now for many years, and sadly he's leaving us soon, which is hard to believe. He's become so much part of our family, not only as a community, but also here at Temple Israel. And those of us who were on the mission came to know him very well, but if you don't know him, Yiftach is the sweetest, kindest, most gentle soul you could ever meet. He's an educator of children, and he's a fighter pilot. So, you know, there's that thing that happens with him, and I really do think that in many ways he stands for the values of our people Israel, and we are so delighted that he has agreed to address us on this celebration of Israel's 75th. Our Shaliach, Yiftach Leket.
Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. Wow. I'm really, really happy and excited to be here and see so many people that I know and love, and those that I don't know, I love you too. And I want to thank the leadership of Temple Israel of inviting me today on celebrating 75 years for Israel, and specifically on this Shabbat, because the parasha this week is really easy to connect to Israel and relate to. It's about leprosy and all kinds of stuff. So no, we're not gonna talk about that. I do want to say that those who know me as an educator and the Motor City Mission and my role here, I really believe that a full relationship with Israel is always through a real, authentic understanding and a full picture as much as possible. So I'm going to actually talk a little bit about where we are right now. A word about my role as the community Shaliach. It's really being a living bridge, hopefully, with our 14 Shinim, doing a lot of programming, but also mostly personal relationships. So come meet us, talk to us, and we have a couple of programs also next week for Yom HaZikaron and Yom Haatzmaut. In these very turbulent times in Israel, it was very hard for me to decide what do I want to talk about. I asked myself, what is deep in the hearts of Israelis right now? And I can tell you, people are hurting. The headlines today are mostly about how are we going to commemorate our fallen soldiers on Memorial Day this coming Monday, which has a sacred status in Israeli society. How are we going to do that when we are torn and everything is politicized? Lev in Hebrew means heart. This question, what is in the hearts of Israelis right now, led me to a broader question that intrigued me. What is a heart of a nation and a country? What is the heart of a community? Is there a collective heartbeat that makes the bloodstream of our society flow and bring fresh oxygen to the social structures we create? Why heart? Why wasn't I interested in what's on Israelis' mind? In Judaism, the heart has a special place. In the book of Kings 3:12, it is said, Hine natati lecha lev chacham v'navon. I have given you a wise and understanding heart. The heart is the center point where everything comes together. The senses of the body, the analysis of the brain, the gut instinct, and the emotion we develop. A truly wise decision is made only by considering all of those together. And that is the wisdom of the heart. But what is a collective heart? What are the things that truly connect us beyond geography and beyond shared history? Is it values? Is it culture? I started to look for an answer right here in Michigan, my new second home, where me and my family have been living for the last 3 years. So I think I know how to make a Michigan left. And most importantly, I know the consequences of choosing to wear a green or blue cap. I think especially here in this house. To be honest, I feel like I myself not only an Israeli anymore. I'm a Mizraeli, a Michigan Israeli, and I love it. So what's in the heart of this place? For me, it's that time that I go to a local supermarket and everybody's saying hi to me as if we were just together at a huge Pesach Seder. Everybody. I've never been greeted with so many strangers in my life. The heart of this place is warm and comforting, and this community coming together and supporting one another is more than an action. It's a beat of the heart. Most of the time, the heart of this place is subtle and quiet, just like the lakes and rivers that regulate the flow and energy of this land. Tradition is also at the heart of this place. Game day is more than just a sporting event, right? It's an expression of generations that hold a certain identity, each family with its traditions. This community is also a compassionate heart, one that seeks for peace and strives for tikkun olam, making the world a better place. What comprises the heart of Israel, of Israelis? What are the nonverbal expressions that connect our diverse society? What are the types of glues between Jews, Muslims, Christians, refugees, religious, secular, olim, and more that comprise Israeli and define Israeliness? What is our game day in Israel, a place that in Israeli you can truly understand without words? So the human heart beats 100,000 beats per day. I decided to focus on 3 that I found important at this moment, as I said. One Israeli heartbeat is trauma. The Israeli sociologist, Professor Gad Yair, writes in his book, "We live under constant pressure, anxious for our existence, and think that the small rock on which we stand, the state of Israel, gives the Jewish people a last chance to survive the eternal ocean of hatred. It comes from trauma, exile, deportation. It comes from an anxious and threatened place, asking that Masada won't fall again and Auschwitz will not return." This trauma beat of our heart has wide implications. It's embedded into us. At the age of 40, my mom still checks my backpack whenever I'm flying abroad to make sure it doesn't have Hebrew on it. My father, a paratrooper who fought in both Six-Day War and the Yom Kippur War, would say today, with all that's happening in Israel, that he's afraid we are close to the destruction of the state. That's what he would say. Another beat is complexity. I practiced on this, but I'm not sure. Exiliastis? Is that okay? Kohelet. Exiliastis? Lakol zman ve'et lechol chefetz tachat hashamayim. A season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for being born and a time for dying, a time for weeping and a time for laughing, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time for peace. The iconic poet, Yehuda Amichai, the Israeli iconic poet, Yehuda Amichai Zichrono Livracha, answered him in a very Israeli way. A man doesn't have time in his life to have time for everything. He doesn't have seasons enough to have a season for every purpose. He was wrong. Kohelet was wrong about that. A man needs to love and hate at the same moment, to laugh and cry with the same eyes, with the same hands, to throw stones and to gather them, to make love in war and war in love, and to hate and forgive and remember and forget, to arrange and confuse, to eat and digest what history takes years and years to do. A man doesn't have time. When he loses, he seeks. When he finds, he forgets. When he forgets, he loves. When he loves, he begins to forget. This is the essence of Israeli complexity. We live in a time and place where we have to deal with so much complexity that trying to picture Israel in tones of black and white don't hold either reality or our vision. Before coming to Detroit, I was a pilot, serving in reserves once a week, and for the rest of the week, I was a teacher in a high school for youth at risk. People used to ask me, how do they work together? I always answered that for me, being a pilot holds the reality we live in, while the dreams and aspirations for a better world come to light as an educator. The last heartbeat I want to share with you is hope. Professor Yair, the one who spoke about trauma, also said, "The burden of Jewish history weighs on us, but also gives us strength to believe in ourselves. It's always surprising to find out that Israel, with all its trauma and complexity, is constantly climbing in the World Happiness Report made by UN. Last year, Israel was in the 9th place in the world. Another interesting figure that speaks to that same idea is our turnout on election day. On one hand, Israelis are tired to going to vote, as we had 5 elections in just a few years. At the same time, turnout is at a high of 70% of eligible voters putting in their vote. Where is that hope today? If Israelis are full of hope, why are we witnessing one of its most vulnerable times in history? I don't have a good answer. But it's time for us to recognize that we haven't dealt very well with some of our deepest issues, and our society is fragile more than ever. This week, we commemorate Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, and celebrate Yom Haatzmaut, Israel as Independence Day. 3 days that are inherent organ in the Israeli bloodline. Each of them expresses one of those heartbeats: the trauma of our past, the complexity of our life in Israel, and the hope we have for today and tomorrow. In the last 3 years, I grew a much stronger understanding of this connection with all of you, our family from across the ocean, who cares about us so deeply. We want you, and we need you to continue beating your hearts with ours, finding the strength to do that even in challenging times. We need you to not only support us, but actually take part in shaping our future as a people and as a state. I would like to ask you for a moment to close your eyes, to put your hand on your heart, to listen to the beats, and to take a moment and imagine what Israel would look like in the next 25 years when it celebrates its 100th anniversary. Shabbat Shalom.